You are listening to Spilling the Tea, a real estate podcast with Kristy Macero and Shelagh Maycheck.
Hi everyone, you're listening to Spilling the Tea, a real estate podcast with your host, myself, Kristy, and my lovely co-host, Shelagh Maycheck.
Hello.
Today we have, don't ever mistake him for an Englishman, our resident Scot, David Smith, and the amazing photographer and homeowner, Lindsay Cropley.
Hello.
Coming up is September 1st. It's National Bring Your Manners to Work Day, and I believe in real estate, people have to have some basic manners.
Yes.
We aren't just talking about politeness, but instead the concept of fostering a good process from start to finish between all parties involved in a transaction. I believe that there's a certain etiquette in order to make sure that things are provided seamlessly from start to finish. And it doesn't matter what side of the coin you're on, you gotta have some manners.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have some manners. As a realtor, you're responsible for your guests when you're in another person's home. You have to abide by showings instructions and make sure that the visit is respectable for everyone. Now, Shelagh, when you joined real estate, what manner at work did you not know existed before you started real estate? Like, what was something that you learned that you didn't know was there?
When I'm sending touch bases, which are messages between one agent to another about a property, specifying that I was a licensed assistant, especially if I was sending a showing request, I'd be like, so-and-so licensed assistant for this person, just so they know who they're communicating with and who I'm associated with.
And what you're allowed to do.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, yeah, that's a very good point. It lets the person on the other side of the coin know that you're not just an unlicensed representative, you're actually licensed. Yeah. And do you ever notice that in social situations?
Yes. If I'm at a property, like I make sure to introduce myself. If it's not Kristy showing up, I'll be like, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm a licensed assistant. And immediately they kind of relax a little bit because one, unlicensed people cannot be at a property showing places, but then they know that I'm allowed to talk about real estate with my clients and to them and ask certain questions.
Yeah. My biggest no manners pet peeve is when I'm calling a realtor and I go, ring, ring, and then the agent picks up and they go, hello?
It's the worst. Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Bruh. Yeah, I just lose it because I'm like, oh, hi, I'm looking for, so-and-so from such and such real estate agency. Are you there?
That. That's amazing.
And they're like, oh, yeah, this is him. I'm like, oh, good. I found who I'm looking for. Kind of being like, why wouldn't you introduce yourself?
I can't count how many times I'll call an agent, unfortunately, and they just answer with, yeah. Or it's just a long pause and they're like, hello? And I'm like, hi, is this so-and-so from so-and-so?
Yeah.
And I do okay, good. Okay, I'm here to talk to you about your listing. Yeah, okay, you are the realtor. Great, we've got that covered. Let's get into the good stuff.
Do you ever find that, David? Do you ever call someone and they don't introduce themselves?
Yeah, and honestly, if that's our competition, I don't mind.
I like it. That's good. I like it. You're like, yeah, keep going.
As long as they're not with our office, I'm completely fine with it.
That's a good point. Yeah. Wollstonecraft agents, you make sure you're answering the phone properly.
Yeah.
So we're going to tie it into real estate here. Everyone has a different outlook on manners. When I started real estate, I had a client where the culture, they really invite you in. And that manner with that culture is that you go in, you sit down, you have some food, you have some drink, and you discuss everyday stuff with them before you talk about business. Okay, so it's not like you can't just go in there, sit down, get a quick set of signatures and bounce. It is like, would you like something to drink? Yes. Would you like something to eat? Yes. We have an awesome realtor in our office. His name's Ranesh Anand. I was talking to him about this earlier. You can't even go into his office without him offering you something to eat. He will literally have a half-eaten granola bar. That was my favorite thing he offered me. It was a half-eaten granola bar. He's like,
do you want some?
He's like, would you like the other half of this?
Yeah,
and I'm like,
no,
man.
I love Ranesh.
Yeah.
Earlier today, I was in his office and he goes, you can't leave without an energy drink. He had this new energy drink and he wanted me to try it. So he's definitely very generous. And I can tell that was the house that he was raised in, and that was the kind of totally, and that's the customs that he has. So we always make sure that we know that that's going to be a longer appointment with those particular clients at the beginning of my career. You can't go in there without it being 50, 60, 70 minutes.
My listing appointments are pretty famous for being an hour and a half minimum.
Yeah.
And sometimes up to 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Because you want to actually get to know the people.
Yeah.
And there might be something that comes up over a plate of cookies, you guys call them. I would call them biscuits growing up.
In my head, I thought
struggling for it.
spaghetti. That was what
Spaghetti?
came in.
I'm not usually going out the spaghetti.
We'll be there for 3 hours. It's dinner time.
Sheila does
dinner
deals
time.
over spaghetti.
But you can find out a detail over that actually might have an influence, right? Like, or maybe they're barbecuing something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what kind of barbecue is that? They're like charcoal. I'm like, okay, well, like 99% of strata properties are out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, you learn more by sitting
learn
with
more.
people
Yeah,
for sure.
spend time with them.
And we've had situations where we've had to send over listing contracts and do things very quickly where people don't want that. So it's a know your audience play for sure.
Yep.
So, Lindsay, we're going to go to you first. We're going to get into the scenarios. First off, if anyone's looking for a photographer for their maternity shoots, their baby shoots, or any of those kinds of shoots, Lindsay's phenomenal. So I'm just going to give that small shout out to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. You're selling your freshly renovated home. The home includes brand new wood flooring. You discover that an agent and their clients came through and they began walking around the house without taking any of their wet shoes off. Like you're seeing like the salt from their shoes like in the house.
You can identify the tread marks.
You can basically, it could be a Dateline episode. You could see the footprints. You now have footprints throughout your home. How would you feel finding new footprints over all your hardwood floors?
I would be very frustrated. You spend so much time like prepping your home for a showing, cleaning. I have kids, so putting all the kids' stuff away, making it look perfect, and then to come home and find that would be, I don't know, so frustrating. And like just that they didn't respect your space. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what if you found like dirt on the carpets? To me, that's like even worse than the hardwood for some
That is
reason.
even worse. So much harder to
Yeah.
clean.
Right?
Yeah.
And that would be like a big no-no for you. You'd be pretty
Huge
peeved.
no-no. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I like your sign that you put out. Take your shoes off outside.
I do have a take off your
Yeah.
shoes sign.
Yeah.
It's got like the little camera warning and the please take your shoes off sign.
We made it like
Threat.
bright red to be like,
Failure to comply
We're
will
serious.
lead to immediate incarceration.
Yeah.
Oh, you went execution? Yeah.
That's how serious you are about taking your
That's
shoes
about
off.
right.
There's a little poison symbol next to the shoe sign. No, I'm
Yeah.
not.
I'm terrified of Kristy.
Yeah. Okay, so David, have you ever had to tell an agent and their buyers to remove their shoes?
Yes, and sometimes it makes no sense to me. Although, so I mean, obviously we work in quite an international market, and different cultures have different practices.
Yeah.
Like growing up in Scotland, if someone took their shoes off coming into your home, you'd be like, "What are you doing? Put your shoes back on. This is really weird. You wear shoes on carpet, and it's like completely normal." So I have like sensitivities around that kind of thing. But if it's just regular Canadian folk and all of a sudden they're not taking their shoes off for some reason, I'm kind of like, why are you taking your shoes off? Like, just let's respect the homeowner and please take your shoes off. And it sucks if they don't have slip-ons. It's like some people look at you and like give a big eye roll, and it's like, I didn't put you in 6-inch boots, like.
Yeah.
Which I once made the mistake of doing that like early in my career, where I had like military boots. That
I was gonna say, were you wearing
No, they weren't. They weren't. Hang on, not 6-inch
I was
heels.
thinking that
Okay.
too.
You guys think
They
he's
were tall.
tall? He's not.
Yeah, they're platform shoes.
He's 5'4". For anyone who's not looking, he's 5'4".
But it was the proper like lace up boots,
Yeah.
and I got called out on an emergency buyer tour, and I
As
had
one
to
does.
take them on and off for every single condo that
and
I
that's
saw.
it's a lot. I know
So it's now Birkenstocks and
Yeah.
Blundstones. That's it. Yeah.
some shoes are obviously harder to take off than others, which we try to inform buyers when they're going out to
Yeah,
not wear
slip-ons.
the.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
We were talking to an agent yesterday, and she said, slip-on's fine. She's like, but don't come in my house with bare feet.
Oh,
Also true.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another manners thing, right? Like maybe people want to make sure that that they have either not bare feet or they've got little sandals put out for
Yeah.
you, because that's very, very common.
Yep.
David, do you ever put out signs in your listings where it says take
Yeah,
your shoes off?
We have little floor mats with a nice David Smith Homes Group logo on them.
Nice, nice.
And the floor mat says something along the lines of, please take your shoes off and imagine yourself living here. So it's not too aggressive.
yeah.
I'm not threatening to execute them.
I mean, no one wears them
People
in my
always
house.
take their shoes
No
off.
one
whenever-
wears them in the
It's the different flavors at the table.
Yeah.
Do you ever let your clients leave their shoes on, or clients
Yeah.
visiting the home?
Yeah, I do. I think sometimes there are situations where how do you put this? Okay, I call them sock burners. When I get back home and Amanda asks how my day was, I was like, showed a couple of sock burners today.
What is a sock burner? Lindsay, have you ever heard of this before?
No, but I can imagine
A
it.
sock
Go
burner
ahead.
in our line of work is you have taken your shoes off and then you walk through so much cat litter that it's just like those socks are dead to me now.
Oh.
And so
I
they
did
don't-
not know what that was.
Yeah. Yeah, so they don't, well, that's probably from listing shoots together. Well, hopefully not listing shoots, but other places that we've been. We
The
don't
other
list
ones.
filthy properties.
The ones we don't
Jeremy.
talk about.
Yeah,
No, but
no,
you go
they
into
don't.
homes.
Those socks
Yeah.
don't go upstairs. Those socks go straight in, well, sometimes the garbage, depending on how bad it was, and
Yeah.
Okay.
sometimes in the fire.
Okay.
Yeah, they're done.
Okay, sock burner. Okay. We have situations, I mean, we showed a home last year where the people that came, one was an older lady, one had their
Yeah.
foot in a cast, one was,
Yep.
and I'm sitting there going, I can't ask these people to take their shoes
No.
off. It'll take
Like-
them half an hour.
Like they were clean, but I'm like, you're gonna spend your whole showing time taking off your shoes, and I know they're just kind of gonna be shuffling through the apartment,
Yeah.
and the shoes are clean. So I'm like,
And
no, keep them on.
Some people, especially if they're older, they're
Yeah.
using those shoes as stability. So I don't want to be responsible for them to take those suckers off. Number one, they might not come back up. Number two, like, what if they fall or something? So,
I have had, clients with mobility challenges
Yeah.
where I've sometimes mentioned in the touch base, like, hey, just a heads up, the client isn't able to remove their shoes. It's not for a lack of desire. It's
Oh,
just
that's
a lack
so
of ability.
nice.
Yeah.
oh, okay. So then do
Ahead
you
of
bring
time.
like a towel to,
Yeah, I mean, we'll bring a towel, a little bit of Lysol, like a wipe, if there's an issue. But
Right.
honestly, like those people are usually, like honestly, sometimes they're embarrassed about the situation, that kind of thing. So I'm also not gonna like run around after them, like polishing the floor,
Getting the booties.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, the fact that I've reached out to the agent
Right.
in advance and they've still confirmed the showing is enough to mitigate the situation.
how many times do we say communication is key? Communication
Yeah.
is key.
Yeah.
So
Because they
Lindsay,
would rather have the showing than
yes.
Yeah.
dirty floors.
Lindsay, if you had somebody reach out, like say David's got a buyer, he's reaching out to you, your agent, and your agent says, hey, look, there's some older people coming, they can't take their shoes off. Is that good? Is that acceptable?
Oh yeah,
Is that-
that's fine. It's just like the dirty footprints. It's like
It's
no.
the careless footprints.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Very, very cool. Thank you so much. Okay. So I got a second scenario for you. Here's another one. Are you ready? I'm gonna spill this tea. And this is a situation where there's a vastly different opinion from people. So this is probably one of my most enjoyable conversations to have because everyone's got a different outlook on this. You have your vacant listing for sale. You return to check on the house after a week and you notice that someone has used the bathroom upstairs. Jeremy's losing it right now. This wouldn't normally upset you, although the water has been shut off in the house and you can smell it the second you open the door. So that crazy scenario aside, how do you feel about people using your facilities while they're in your house?
I don't know. I have a couple different thoughts on it.
Tell us them all. We got to hear them all.
Yeah,
all the
tell us them
thoughts.
all.
Yeah, all of them.
My first thing is if it's an adult knows they're going to this listing, you can go to the bathroom before, or if it's that bad, you can there's two options. You can either leave the showing early or, just hold it until the end, just kind of rush through it. Or the other thing is if it's a small child, like if you have your kids, like they can't hold it.
Yeah.
Like my kids, how.
Oh yeah,
Gotta
it's
get-
an immediate need.
Yeah, so that would be fine for like a kid to use or whatever, but not really sure I would love an adult using it.
Okay, so understandable if it's a child, but
Yeah.
you're hoping that adult has the ability to hold it if they
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Okay, and that totally makes sense. With the place being vacant and empty, how would you expect? So, say you were to report this back to your realtor, how would you expect that situation to be resolved? Like you grabbing a mop and a bucket? Or
Oh
you...
no, I'm signing my husband up for that one.
Oh. There you go, sir.
job.
You're if you're listening, that would be you.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, water has to be turned back on. We've had situations where maybe a cleaning company or something would have to come in, and
That would be option
That's
two.
a terrible job, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, if an adult is going in there and using the bathroom and then they go to flush it, there's no water.
Yeah.
You would think that they would go and tell their agent, and then you
would
would
think
be
that, wouldn't
made known of this.
That would be like making the best out of a shitty situation, I'd say.
She did it. She went
Damn,
there.
She went there.
You would hope that they're like, hey, I'm so sorry. I used the washroom. Can you let somebody know?
We had a house where someone used the bathroom downstairs.
Yeah.
You knew when it hit you in the face as you walked down the stairs, and we had to call the homeowner and say, hi, someone has destroyed your toilet. And there was nothing. I was like, do you have cleaning stuff? But it was actually clogged. And so we had to have the homeowner come back in between showings to try to resolve this situation.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that it was an adult. It kind of, without obviously getting too graphic, it kind of.
Well, we're past that point.
I got the impression that that adult couldn't wait. Okay, so it was
fair enough.
and it was the basement bathroom, so it wasn't the main
Everybody
one or anything.
poops.
But yes, there's a book on this.
There's
so.
a book for that.
Yeah, because it's too bad. And I know that if I have to use the washroom, because sometimes we're back to back on showings, I'll try to go to a gas station. I'll try to hold it and stuff. But my rule, if anyone ever has to use a washroom a bathroom in a listing, is that you leave it how you found it. You leave it how you found it.
Yeah, it's just the etiquette.
Yes, you don't if that toilet paper is folded into a triangle when you get in there, you fold it on a triangle on the way out. It has to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
David.
Oh.
Dave. Oh, see, now I picked David for this for a very specific reason. David has two stories. Okay. The first one we're going to get into is, has anyone ever destroyed a toilet in your listing?
Okay, so I actually have two stories on that one.
Okay, I love it.
See, this is the risk of getting on a podcast like this, because the public need to know this isn't normal. Okay?
It's not normal. That's the whole theme of this podcast.
There's hundreds of showings every single year, that we're involved in, and I have
Nothing happens.
two stories.
Yeah.
Okay, one story was it was right around Christmas time. It was a condo in Langley. I had a very particular seller who was the loveliest guy, but literally the tidiest, cleanest person that you can imagine. Okay?
Perfect seller.
Perfect seller. He's set everything up lovely. We've got to sell his condo. So I get a showing request from a top agent in the area. And this top agent doesn't normally show condos. I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. So fire away. Well, he took that literally. Yeah, it was a problem. And Jeremy's just
spitting
spat
out his
tea.
beer. Oh, sorry, his tea.
And and I get the most upset phone call, and it's so-and-so just lit up my bathroom. And I there was nothing else I could do other than apologize. I never let this top agent know that I was aware of the situation. And I paid for some cleaners to come through because that was the only way to remedy the situation and just kind of move on. So
How did the how did your seller know that it was the agent that destroyed the bathroom? How do you know it wasn't a client that destroyed the bathroom?
I'm not entirely sure of that.
Okay.
And I wouldn't want to
I guess it doesn't matter. Don't worry.
consider that
you don't
too
have
much.
to.
But
yeah.
The second story, Jeremy was present for. You'll remember this one. This was a listing again many years ago, and we were on our media and measurements day. But one of the realtors in our office had found out that I was listing this property. It was quite a desirable property, and so he's like, "Can I get in early for a showing?" I'm like, "Well, we're doing the media and measurements on such and such a day. Come on out." So the measurements guy is there, the media guy is there. Measurements guy kind of disappears for a few minutes. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. And then my colleague shows up. He's there showing the property. And after walking around a little bit, he comes back to me and goes, someone's clogged the toilet. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. And he's like, yeah, can't shift it. I'm like, okay, leave it with me. I asked Jer outright. I'm like, Jer, did you clog the toilet? He's like, wasn't me. So there's the media team out. I'm like, it's the measurements guy.
He was measuring for a while.
Yeah. So Jer remembers this well because you actually heard me having the conversation with the person who I won't identify.
Oh, they were still there when this was happening?
They were still there. And I went to them and I was like, look, I'm not angry. I'm disappointed.
Oh my gosh.
That you wouldn't tell me. And I said, we need to find a plunger. And it turned out that we had to turn this house upside down because they're getting ready for listing their property and for pictures and everything. You don't want plungers lying around. Everything's tucked away. There were 6 plungers on the top shelf in the garage. And eventually this guy went and plunged it and sorted the situation out. But those are 2 of my 3 major toilet stories that we're going to cover tonight.
Lindsay, have you ever had to use the bathroom facilities in a house that you're buying?
That's a very personal question.
No.
Well, because I know that I have clients that sometimes have to go, and they'll say to me like, "Oh my God, I have to use the washroom," and I'll be like, "Okay, can you wait till we get to our coffee break at X time or lunch break at X time?" And if they're like, "No," I'm like, "Okay, just leave it how you found it," you know?
Yeah.
It's a good rule.
It happens.
It's a good rule.
Yeah, because you never know. David,
Really?
yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. Fasten your seatbelts, people. Fasten your toilet seats, people. Have you ever used the bathroom facilities in a house you are showing?
In a house, no.
Okay.
Outside of a house, yes. And Jeremy was also involved in this one.
Jeremy's always involved in this. He's crying. He's hyperventilating right now.
This is just
How are you involved?
So again, this is years ago, and every time I say that, I'm not making it up. Like,
Okay.
Like, real estate is a hard industry to learn, and there's many opportunities to learn from your mistakes.
This is why we have this podcast.
And I don't make them
context.
anymore. I don't make these kind of mistakes anymore. So
Okay.
I'm super excited because I'm hosting an open house for another agent because I have no business of my own. And it's a brand new build, and it's in an area that Jeremy lives in, which I will not be disclosing in case anybody starts putting two and two together. Oh, I can't believe I'm telling this story. Anyway, so it's a brand new home. So they have the water turned off, and I noticed this, thankfully, and there's no toilet paper. So I begin panicking because at this point in my real estate career and life, I'm fueled exclusively by coffee and energy drinks. And it was...
And you're going to be there for hours.
I'm going to be there for hours and hours and hours. And so I start frantically power calling Jeremy. I'm like, Jer, I'm going to have to turn the water on, and I need you to bring me some toilet paper, please. The problem is, Jeremy had his phone plugged in. He was charging his phone and was away from it. So he comes back to like 39 power calls from
Oh
me.
my God, I probably thought you died.
Like 16 text messages and I don't know, like 17 Facebook messages. It was
increasing urgency.
increasing urgency. Like if we could actually
More
find
serious
that.
emoji.
Oh my goodness. And so anyway, I did have to take a visit in the ravine behind the house. Not on the lot, not in the house, not in the yard.
Hey,
But
nature called?
Nature called, and there was a pair of underwear that was sacrificed that day.
Okay.
And I did my job.
So if you find a pair of knitted David Smith underwear, knitted custom David
In a
Smith
ravine.
underwear in a ravine, that's what happened.
Yeah.
I can't believe you got that out of me.
I love that. Do you talk about, not obviously this as your clients, but you talk about
Clearly not.
do you talk about discussing like bathroom stuff ahead of time with your clients? Like, what's your rule for them if they have to use the washroom in a listing? Or you have to?
I think honestly, like your rule, leave it as you found it is a good rule. And I left everything in that house exactly as I found it. The ravine is another story.
I think we've all learned a little something today. Like, I think Lindsay's...
I've learned not to trust you on podcasts, quite frankly.
We've got him. Yeah. They're on to us. Yeah. We learned a couple things today. Number one, obviously, the gut instinct that we have from Lindsay, the homeowner, is that, hey, that's not okay. Or, hey, communication is key. Or, hey, like...
She said gut instinct.
Yeah, I really did.
I did.
I'm going there. Yeah. Which is good because that's why we have that perspective. Because, of course, no one wants to come home to find that things are kind of messed up, or no one wants to come home to find out that their bathroom has been destroyed. It's a kind of leave it as you get it kind of thing. Yeah. And communicate ahead of time. If you do have clients that need to keep their shoes on, for example, any kind of mobility issues is not a bad thing to communicate ahead of time. We also learned that you just can't trust Jeremy to pick up his phone if you need toilet paper. So no, I'm totally kidding.
Saturday afternoon, man.
But you learn that, these are things that you have to watch out for. There are houses that don't have the water on. There are houses that don't have toilet paper. If I have a vacant listing, I always leave toilet paper and some hand soap because you just never know. I just, again, hope that people leave it as they found it because I think that's really ultimately what we have to make sure we do. So learn etiquettes of the job, guys. Abide by them. Make sure that you're respecting the people in the house. And if there is seller direction as to what to do with your shoes and that kind of stuff, follow it because you're going into somebody's house.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's all the tea spilling today, folks. We hope you learned something.
I'm going to use the handle this time.
Yes.
I'm going to be polite because this is about manners.
This is 24 episodes
Pinkies
in,
out
so
or
finally.
what?
Oh, pinkies out. Yeah, cheers.
Pinkies out.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Spilling the Tea, a real estate podcast with Kristy Massero and Shelagh Maycheck.